Hello, hello, hello. It's Stephanie here, and welcome to episode 79. Can you believe it? Of the Rent to Rent Success podcast. This one's going to be epic. I know it's something you're going to love. People ask me all the time, where can I find landlords? This is one of your answers. It's something that I don't talk about very often and have been very skeptical about. It's about using Facebook ads to find landlords and to find properties for your rent-to-rent business. We've got a rock star in this area. He's going to help you turbo boost your business. Today, I am thrilled to be joined by Azus Ifeachor. He's got over 20 years experience as a digital marketer and property investor. He's got a background as a software engineer, and he worked for EE, the largest provider in Europe, for 7 years. And he himself has a mixed portfolio of HMOs that he owns and rent-to-rent properties that have enabled him to be financially free. Welcome to the show, Azus Ifeachor.
Hello, everybody, and thank you very much, Stephanie, for the invite.
Well, we've known each other for some years, and I've known that you've been an investor yourself in Plymouth, and you've got your own portfolio of rent-to-rent properties as well. And I see you popping up all the time talking about this Facebook ads, and I treated it with my usual level of skepticism. But tell me why I got it all wrong, and Facebook ads is absolutely the thing for finding landlords.
So one of the things I think that people get a lot is that most landlords are quite mature, right? So they're probably in their 50s plus, 60s plus type of thing. And it's assumed that things like social media, and say Facebook specifically, is for the young people. So if I'm trying to reach a landlord, and let's say they are on Facebook, they're not interested in, business. They're on social media for fun, for pleasure, looking at cat videos and crazy things, listening to what madness that Donald Trump's been up to or whatever. And if you look at it more like marketing is about getting your message in front of people, and ideally the right kind of people at the right time. And we all know that Facebook's like the big party that, whether you want to look at it as a prom or house party or whatever, it's that big party where everyone's at. So you just need to try and get into the in crowd, as it were. So if they're already there, we know where they are. We just want to get our message in front of them in a way that doesn't put them off. So that's why I think you should use social media, because everybody's on social media. We know they're on social media. And so if we can get our message in front of those people, then we can take a percentage of those people off of social media and onto our own platform, which might be our website, as an example.
Even my mum's on social media, Azu. That shows you.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a stat here, actually, which I kind of pulled up. And it's from a company called Social Films. And they were saying that basically, if you look at social media, specifically if you look at Facebook, the percentage of UK Facebook users between the ages of 18 to 24 in 2012 was about 24%. And in fact, in 2020, it's actually gone down to about 16%, because usually young people are early adopters of technology. So when the iPhone or smartphones came out, everyone was still on the flip phones, right? They're still on those Nokias playing snakes and ladders or whatever it was. Whereas all of the youth were on these fancy touchscreen devices, and people were thinking, where are the buttons? People need to physically press a button. But nowadays we've all got smartphones, and nobody questions physical buttons to press, right? So the youth were the early adopters of the technology. And so what's the new technology coming out at the moment? It's things like Instagram, it's things like TikTok. We're all dancing, doing the dance videos. And what happens is, as the existing technology has been around for ages, people's skepticism, a bit like yours with Facebook ads and that, the skepticism declines, and they think, okay, well, let's give this a go. So you're the late adopter. So if you look at that same time period, right, and you look at the percentage of UK Facebook users aged 65 and over, And if you look at it in 2012, the users at that point was 4%. So you compare that to the 18 to 24-year-olds, the youth. Remember, I told you it was at 24%. So those at 65 and over in 2012 was at 4%. Now, or 2020, the age and the percentage of users that are 65 and over is now at 9%. So that's gone from 4% up to 9%. So it's increased, whereas the youth has decreased. So what I'm saying is those that are more mature, the late adopters, they're starting to say, okay, well, all my grandkids, all my children, a lot of those people, they're all on Facebook. They're all telling me, oh, have you seen that on Facebook? Okay, let me get involved. And the technology has gotten easier to use. It's less complicated. So people start to slowly adopt that. But as the new technology comes in, like TikTok and all these other things, that's where the youth start to migrate to.
I love that. I don't like the fact that you're mentioning about the 60 plus here. I hope we know that. I might be a late adopter, but I'm not the 60 plus. Not yet.
Not at all.
But no, it's a good point. But before we actually dive into the Facebook ads, and you've got a step-by-step strategy for how to do this, and I've heard you talk about it because we just had a private session for our rent-to-rent superstars with you, Azu, and the feedback we had from it was phenomenal. And you really broke it down and went through it. And what I want you to do was have you on here to talk a little bit about what you're talking about. But first of all, who is the man, Azu Ifeachor? I'm guessing you're an early adopter.
Yeah, I guess, because all right, so how do I say this? So my background is in IT and technology. So my dad my dad is a professor at the university in Plymouth. So he's had me and my siblings and stuff like that. And I remember when I was growing up, I must have been about, well, not to say my age, but I was young. And I remember that we were one of the first kids in our neighborhoods. Not like we grew up like poor or anything like that. And we certainly didn't grow up like wealthy or rich or whatever. But we were one of the first people on our estate to actually have a computer in the house. So everybody else didn't really have a computer. And we had an IBM PC. I remember that. And so I started learning like Shell, like MS-DOS, started learning to, not code as such, but using that to run programs and stuff like that. So as Windows, so this is before Windows. This is when you had to tell Windows to load. You didn't just turn your computer on and it worked. You had to tell Windows to load.
And do you remember, sorry, it was probably before the dial-up internet, but when we had the dial-up for the internet, and do you remember those dot matrix printer where it made so much noise? It sounded like an earthquake.
And it's line by line. So I remember all that kind of stuff. So I remember when floppy disks were actually floppy.
Yes.
So yeah, and I just loved. I've got that type of brain. My mum told me, like when I was growing up as a kid, like a baby, I would get like toys or whatever, and I would just rip it apart just to see how it would work and try and put it back together again. So that's the type of person that I am, quite an analytical kind of person. So as I got older, I then eventually found myself working for EE, and I was a software engineer in there. I was working on CRM, and it's really like the sort of the coding and making and just building things, really. Like that, it's really what engineers do, is just making stuff and really getting in the trenches, whether it's coding or building bridges or whatever it is that you're doing. That's kind of what my mindset is like, and I like sort of solving puzzles, that type of thing. So the next puzzle then becomes, so as I'm doing all of this, and specifically when I was in EE, I managed to get in like a trainee program, like apprenticeship type of thing. So I was guaranteed a job for like 3 years. And as I'm in that job and I'm bouncing around the different departments, from project management to usability, building websites, and vendor management, and all of these different amazing things and opportunities, I'm seeing people, and I'll never forget this. This was in a project management team that I was in. It was so tough in that team because I was thrown in the deep end and I had to just do so much work and stuff. I opened my eyes to a lot of stuff, but I was always sort of in property, and I'll kind of circle back around to that later. But I've always sort of been in property, and I remember speaking to someone in one of the teams, in the project management teams, and she was telling me, "Oh, I've just bought my first house. I'm so excited." And we were kind of bouncing backwards and forwards of, "Oh, this and that and the other." And she'd bought a house to live. And I think it was maybe a month later, after having that conversation with this lady, they got told that their team was being reduced from 10 people down to 2. So all of a sudden, like they keep doing reorgs, and that's just a fancy way of saying we've got a new CEO. He's got a new idea, direction to put the company in, which means we're going to have to make a load of people redundant. That's just a fancy way. That's what reorg means, is we're going to make you redundant. So all of these teams were getting reduced by as much as 80%. So she was like, "I've just bought my house. I've only been in the company for a little short period of time. How am I going to be able to pay for my mortgage? What am I going to do next?" And it's quite scary time, just seeing all the fear in people's faces. And it confirmed to me something that I already was thinking, which is, I don't want to depend on someone else to look after me, especially in my older age. So all of this pension stuff, all of these things that they're trying to put in place, whilst it's important to have that, like, I remember when people were saying, like, old ladies were freezing to death in their homes because they were too scared to put the heating on. Like, that is shocking. Like, imagine you work 40 years in your life only to get to a point where you've got to downsize and be in a place where you're too scared to turn the heating on, and you end up freezing to death. So all of these things just scared me and make me realize that relying on the government or the big brother or whoever it is to look after me and my family and stuff in my older age is just crazy. It's not going to work. So you've got to come up with an alternative. So for me, that was to invest. And I looked a little bit in stocks and shares, but that looked scary as hell as well, because you could overnight lose all your money. Whereas property, because of the legal system here in the UK, it's quite robust. It's really slow, right? It's like 3 months to get in. And if you're trying to sell, it's probably another 3 months to get out. So it's quite slow. And even if the housing market tanks and goes into the toilet, like, people are still going to need a place to live. We live on an island in the UK. So with all of these things considered, so long as my tenants can service the debt, as it were, on my property, I'm all right. If they can service the expense of maintaining the property to a high standard, I'm okay with that. And then as I am doing my sort of searching and researching of going with Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and the Simon Zucchis of the world and all of these kind of things, I come across all these other different trainers that are experts at their individual fields. And I eventually stumbled across, I don't have that much money to get into property, like the 25% to put down in order to get a buy-to-let mortgage. So I got some money put aside that I can risk on this investment. And then I come across this strategy called rent to rent, whereby you can find landlords that are struggling or accidental landlords, and you can then control their property or manage their property, right? And they're happy because they get, you remove all the stress, and then you also get a good rental income as well. You're looking at the rental income of the property, and essentially you're splitting in half. They get half to sort themselves out, you get half to manage the property and stuff. And if you can get it right, you only need a couple of those. Like, I think the average salary in the UK is like £3,000 a month. Mm-hmm. And if the average rent to rent property is like £500 a month, you only need like 4 to 6 properties, and you've replaced your salary. And so I had that mindset, did that, and I was able to leave EE and just say, look, now I've replaced my salary. I don't have to keep exchanging my time for money. And now I've brought back my time. What do I want to do? And so I now pick up a second strategy and go down that route. So that's how come I kind of went into property and got into it and ended up where I am now.
I love that story. And actually, the average UK salary, according to the National Office of Statistics, in February 2020 was £25,000. So just over £2,000 a month. So even 3 to 5 properties, as you say, will replace the average UK salary. So it really is phenomenal.
Yeah, so it's not like you need a lot. You'd have to be a massive estate agent. And if you've got the systems right, managing 5 properties, if you've set it up right and you've got the standard to a good standard, so you're not this slum landlord or overcrowding or anything like that, you've got good tenants in there, the reality is, what's going to go wrong? Occasionally you get like a few leaks, occasionally you get a few in-house fighting where personalities don't match too much. Outside of that, it's just general small maintenance, which is every now and then. And that doesn't have to be 100% of your focus 100% of the time.
No, exactly. That's the thing. It's a part-time. It can be a part-time job if you want it to be, or you can outsource it. But when you do it yourself, obviously you keep all of the profits. And when you ask somebody else to do it, you lose some of your profits, which we decided to lose some of our profits so that we don't have to do it. But yeah, it's a phenomenal business. I'm so glad you got into it. But I'm even more excited about once you got into it and you outsourced some of that off your plate, you then thought, what am I going to do with my time? And for you, it was just natural to go into marketing. So let's get down to basics with this Facebook ads. Tell us, if people want to find landlords on Facebook, what should they be thinking about first?
So, first and foremost, I want to say I don't knock any of the traditional forms of marketing. And what I mean by that is really sort of print and radio or TV advertising. Yes, it works because ultimately, as I said, marketing is about getting your message, your product, your service out in front of as many people as possible, and ideally your target audience, and ideally right when your target audience is ready to buy essentially your products and services. That's the best form of marketing. So one of the best forms at the minute is like word of mouth marketing. So that is literally let's say Black Panther came out, right? And everybody knew about Black Panther without having to necessarily see all of the advertising. A friend told a friend of how great the movie was or whatever, and whether you like it or not, you go and see that movie and you'd either say, it wasn't that good, or it was amazing, right? And so word of mouth marketing is the thing that kind of helped that to kind of blow up. So it's the same thing. If you want people to know what it is that you do in property, you go and tell as many people as you can. It's like 3-foot rule. As many people, everybody within 3 foot, you tell them what it is that you do, and eventually, you'll get some business that way. And sort of social media marketing, specifically Facebook marketing, is the new word of mouth. It's a great way of telling people what it is that you do. You can set it up. It works 24/7, and get your message in front of your target market.
Great. So for many of us, some might call us late adopters or try to make out that we're over 60. But for many of us, this all seems a bit like gobbledygook.
Right.
So where should we start, Azu, in working out how to use Facebook ads to attract our perfect landlords?
Okay. So the reality is there are 4 parts to marketing, period, right? The first part is to get attention. The second part is to get a lead or like a prospect or something like that, right? To get a lead. Then you want to make an offer to that person, to that lead or prospect, or however you want to phrase it. And then the final part is to really do the sale, which is ultimately following up with that person. Those are the 4 main parts. It doesn't matter what kind of marketing you're doing, traditional or digital marketing. Those are the 4 things that you need to do. Now, my problem with traditional forms of marketing is what I refer to as the feedback loop. So I could write one of the things that people are told to do when they're trying to get hold of landlords is to find the landlord register and then write to every landlord on that register and present them with your offer. And the problem with that is, number one, there's a lot of competition. So everyone's doing it. So that marketing strategy becomes saturated. And when it becomes saturated, what happens is a lot of people just look at the letters that come in, see it as junk mail. So that's whether you're doing letters, leaflets, flyers, whatever, they see it as junk mail, put it in with the rest of the other junk mail and put it in the bin. And then the other thing with that is your message might not be crafted correctly. You might not be conveying your features and benefits of your service as well as you would like to. And so you don't know if what you've said resonates with your ideal target market very well or really badly. And I've done landlord letters before, and I've had landlords come back to me as much as 18 months later to ask me, oh, are you still interested in doing the guaranteed rent thing? And when I ask them, yes, why do you ask? They say, oh, because I've had your letter in the drawer for the last 18 months. And I'm just calling around all the people like yourselves to see who's interested. So it's it took me 18 months for me to realize that letter, the wording of the letter, how I phrased everything was actually good. And that's a long time to wait for that. Whereas social media, you can do an ad today, put it out there today, and as soon as like 24, usually about 72 hours, you'll have feedback. So if in that time frame you've had nothing come back at all, you've had no leads come in, that probably means you need to make some adjustments. And so I don't need to spend a whole bunch of money to find out that I need to make a few adjustments on my advertising campaign.
Yeah, great. So you get a shorter feedback loop. Yeah, I disagree that everyone's throwing their letters in the bin. Yeah, obviously the majority of people are, but the majority of people are scrolling past the ads on Facebook as well. So whatever method you use, there are other people doing it, but they all still work. So we're still getting property from letters, even though a lot of people are writing letters. And
well, in the example I just used, the guy put the letter in the drawer. So he didn't throw it in the bin, he put it in the drawer, and he came back to me 18 months later. So it's not that that landlord letters and things like that don't work. That's not what I'm saying. All I'm saying on that example is the feedback loop.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And so that's great. So tell us, Azu, I feel like I'm asking this question again.
Where do you start?
Yes.
So the first thing is you want to get attention. So normally, how are you going to get that person's attention to let them know you even exist, right? So you could do a letter and write to them and let them know that you exist. And the letter's gonna, like, how much does it cost to send out a letter at the minute?
Yeah, it's the price of a first class stamp, approx, which I can't even remember how much stamps are.
Plus your time to write out the letter. You could use services that automate that, do mail merge for you, plus the paper, plus the ink, the toner, and that, if you're going to do that, unless you pay for a service to do that. And
the service costs less than the price of a first class stamp. So it's just that price plus your time per letter that you send.
So if you compare that, let's call it 50p.
Yeah, I think it's a bit more than that. So yeah,
call it 50p then. It could be more. I mean, it's irrelevant, to be honest with you, but 50p to get a letter out to who you believe is your ideal target market, and you compare that with Facebook, and it can cost you. I've got examples that I did on the talk that we did before, less than a penny. So it's like 0.006 pence to get in front of my ideal target market.
Yeah.
So that's the trade-off right there, to get the attention, just the attention, so they know, oh, Azu exists and he's got a guaranteed rent business.
Yeah.
On one hand, it can cost me 50p or more. On the other hand, the reality is it's probably going to cost me more, like 3 to 5 pence to get into. It costs me less because of more experience, but an inexperienced person can do it for about 3 to 5 pence to get just so people know you exist. So if you're looking at, I've got £5, do I put that to traditional marketing? What will I get for it? Or do I put that into digital marketing? I don't know the maths on that, but it's a lot, right? I can get a lot in front of a lot of people for a £5 compared to if I were to send £5 worth of letters. So that's the first thing, is to get attention. And how are you getting attention? So to get attention on something like social media, it starts off with the creative. So the creative is like the image or the video. So you can use either or. There's pros and cons with both. An image is very quick to get together. You can just take a random picture, an interesting picture, a related services picture, like a picture of a nice house or an ugly house or whatever. You can do a picture and then you can put your ad up and then you're done super quick. Or you could go with a video. And a video is good because if a picture paints 1,000 words, then a video is like an entire novel type of thing, right? So in a short time frame, within 60 seconds, I can say a lot in 60 seconds. And if you compare that again to a letter, How much are you going to say in your letter on your to fit? Because you've got your heading in there, your branding, you've got your sign off in there. You've got so much space to actually convey your service without it looking like, because you've got to have a lot of white space ideally as well, so it looks easy to read. So there's only so much you can say without going into like an essay. Whereas in 60 seconds, I can say a lot in 60 seconds. And then I can do additional things like I can add music to evoke emotion as well. And then if we look at communication, how people communicate with each other, it's those non-verbal cues, right? So if I'm looking at you and smiling and I've got energy and I look like I'm trustworthy and stuff like that as well, that's going to convey something. So now people are, because property's a people business, right? Mm-hmm. So people are looking at me and I'm saying words that make them feel, that give them like trust, and seems like, oh, this guy knows what he's talking about and that kind of stuff. And I look nice and presentable and the rest, not like I need a massive haircut and all the rest of it like now. We're outside of lockdown. But if I'm conveying that message, then people, like, even if there's two people offering the same services, like I might resonate more with one person than another. And like we're both on here, we're both African heritage, right? Oh, at some point African heritage. So you're going to have another person that might look and think, do you know what? I actually want to work. I want to give someone who looks like me more of a chance than someone else, right? That happens in businesses as well. So these are the things that you can do that can make that you can be operating in the same patch as someone else, and someone will pick you more than another. Some person might think, oh, I want to work with a woman. Oh, the last time I worked with a man, it was awful. So I want to work with a woman. And this woman looks like she knows what she's talking about. So I want to work with her. So, and some people might just say, do you know what? Man, woman, like gender aside, race aside, all of that, this person looks like a nice person. They're speaking, you know, maybe bluntly. I like how blunt they are, or I like how happy and funny they are. So they're buying you as much as the service that you're offering. And that's the differentiator. And that's what you can get in video. So that's one of the advantages of that. And then the other thing is Facebook allows you to build something called like, I call it an invisible list, but ultimately, technically, it's called a custom audience. So Facebook, when you go in the back end of Facebook, which you go to business.facebook.com, you set up a business manager account. It's free to anyone with a Facebook account. You can go in there, go in the back end of Facebook, and you can say, I want to run an ad to anybody that has watched 25%, 3 seconds, 15 seconds, 50%, 75%, 95%, 100%. So anyone that's watched one of my videos, any of those things I've just gone through, I want to run an ad to that. So who do you think is more likely to take action on one of my follow-up ads? Someone that's seen it for 3 seconds or someone that's watched 95%? You start to see there's a different message there. The person who's only watched 3 seconds, I might have to come back to them and tell them, hey, I exist. Hey, I exist. Hey, there's this thing out here that will solve your problem. Whereas someone who's watched it video for 95%, I might tell them, I might give them like scarcity ads, like do this now and you get this thing. Do this act now and I'll give you this additional thing as well. Call me today and I'll solve the problem, the pain that you're going through. So there's a difference in the advertising that I say. And I get that feedback because I've used a digital platform that tells me a lot about the person that's looking at my ads. Can you do the same with a letter?
Yeah, no, that's great that you can get the feedback on what's working and what's not working. So give us some examples of things that people could say in their images ads, because that's a bit more.
The simplest formula to use is how to yay without boo.
Excuse me.
That's the template. How to yay, how to get yay without boo, right?
Ah, all right.
How to rent your property in the next 24 hours without having to how to eliminate voids forever without having to use an estate agent or a letting agent.
I see where you're coming from with how to yay without boo, how to get the upside without any downside.
Exactly. How to get the thing they want. So rent to rent, typically people will go, oh, guaranteed rent, guaranteed rent, guaranteed rent. Well, what happens if you get a landlord that's not really bothered about the guaranteed rent? Yes, they'd like it, but they really want someone who's going to look after the house, because the last estate agent didn't give a monkeys and maybe ripped them off and took all their money. And then before that, they were self-managing and they kept having to go down and fix a leaky toilet and so nick my milk and blah, blah, blah. So more so the management side of things is more important to them than the guaranteed rent, right? So it's not all, and here's the thing, because it's so cheap to run an ad and get in front of people in comparison to traditional marketing, you can now do many different tests. So you could run an ad with 3 angles. One that focuses on eliminating voids. One that focuses on why having you as the tenant is better than any other person. Why are you going to be the best tenant? Because you're going to guarantee their money. 2, you're going to look after the property almost better than they would, because you're incentivized to look after the property, because you need to have good tenants that will pay you on time and not be a headache and not destroy the property, because you've got to pay this person over here a guaranteed fixed amount of money all the time. So it makes sense from a landlord's perspective as to, yeah, do you know what? If you run a bad job, you're in trouble, because you still have to pay me the money that we've contractually agreed, guaranteed rent portion. So there's another angle that you could go with. So it's eliminate voids, good management. Another one is like the actual guaranteeing of the rent. Another one is that long tenancy durations as well. So if you look at student landlords, every year they've got to get a new batch of tenants in. Yes, some tenants stay long term, but if you've got a bigger house, every year you've got to get new tenants in. There's a lot of churn. So imagine if you eliminate the churn, you don't have to worry about your property anymore. What would you be doing instead? So that's another angle that you can come up with the landlord, and you can test 3, 4, 5 of those angles as ads and spend, £10 a day for 5 days. So if you have 3 ads, it's £30 a day for 5 days. Oh God, I'm doing maths on camera, which is not great, right? So for 150 quid, you could do that and get some leads in. How likely are you going to get leads in on £150 ad spend on traditional marketing?
Yeah, less likely. Yeah, you need to spend. Actually, usually about 300 letters is the minimum we suggest that you spend, which is about 150 quid. I think it's a bit more than that. But yeah, it's a great way. It's a great thing to be able to add on. So you've given us some great tips there about the sort of wording to use, and the main message or the main theme of it is how to get this amazing upside without any downside or without the hassle, one of the hassles that people usually have.
So so if you were going to do it, you would list out, and as renters, you would do this anyway, because as you go and sit in front of your landlords, you've got to sell your services. So you're going to have a list of benefits of what your services are, and then you've got to have the counterpoint to that as well, right? So guaranteed rent. Why is guaranteed rent important? The reason you want guaranteed rent is because you don't have to chase people for their rent every day. That on the 1st or the 15th of every month, come rain or shine or whatever, your money's coming in. So now that's coming in all the time. You don't have to stress about, okay, my cash flow, am I going to have enough money coming in on this date so I can pay all my bills and my mortgage? That's one of the benefits of guaranteed rent, right? So guaranteed rent without having to chase people for the money. So you're on that's one thing. Then another thing that you'll be looking at again is like if you're a student landlord, you got all this churn, students moving in and out all the time. And then what if some crazy thing were to happen, and then Big Brother would come and say, right, you're all on the naughty step, you're not allowed to leave your house anymore, right? Yeah. And now your tenants are turning around and saying, oh, do you know what? I was supposed to come and live in your property, but the Big Brother's put us on the naughty step. I can't even leave my house to come down to where your property is, so I'm going to cancel my contract. Are you really going to start suing someone that they haven't even moved into your property yet, and you're going to be suing them and stuff like that? Like, the reality is you're probably not. You're just going to find another tenant instead, but you don't have to go through that anymore. So like, that sounds crazy, but before 2020, you would have told me I was nuts for saying that. But where we are now, it makes a lot more sense, right? So and if you're a landlord who had got guaranteed rent before 2020, well, you don't have to worry about you don't have to worry as much about Big Brother telling us to sit on the naughty step, because you got that money coming in.
Absolutely. And these are things you can draw up in your ads, and they would definitely stop the scroll if you were a landlord who was worried. And the great thing is that a lot of people are not using this strategy. So landlords are not seeing this message, every day on their Facebook. So
and you made a really good point before when you said it's a good supplementary strategy. So again, I am not telling you to not do marketing, to not do traditional forms of marketing. All I'm saying is there's alternatives that you could potentially try. So if your budget is like, I don't know, £500 a month, take a portion of that budget and put it into digital marketing and see the results. And you might find that you want to do an 80-20 and put 80% of your budget into digital marketing and 20% into traditional forms.
Yeah. Well, people can experiment and see what works for them.
Exactly.
That's the ideal thing. Some people prefer landlords, direct to landlords. Some people prefer agents. Some people will prefer digital, and some people like the letters, and some people like the offline, and they're telling everyone what you do. But it's great. What you've talked about so far is great at getting attention with those catchy headlines, and you've told us a fantastic formula for how to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So let's move on to, I suppose we'll have to be briefer on these, the lead, the offer, and the follow-up.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that. We've talked about number one, attention. So let's go number two, the lead.
So, okay. So if the attention is just to say, hey, I've got this service, right? Then now Facebook's going to build up this invisible list. Now you've got an audience. Now you're trying to get a lead. So the first thing was attention, and attention might be, so it can be broken down like this. Attention is what they want. Okay, so attention ads are all focused on what they want: guaranteed rents, eliminate voids, all that kind of stuff. A lead ad is much more about how they get it. So that's the mindset of that. So first is to try and get the audience's attention. You've got this product, this service, that whatever, and now it's how they get it. Okay, so if you now want to have guaranteed rents, do this. Contact us today for a free chat, an informal discussion or offer or whatever. So it's a similar ad, but specifically to the target audience that is most likely to buy. So attention is getting in front of those people, and remember, Facebook will tell you how much engagement they've given you, like 10%, 50%, 75%, 95%, right? And now you're focusing on the people that are most engaged, and you're running leader ads to generate the leads to them to give you name, email, phone number, essentially.
That's brilliant.
So that side.
So could you, I suppose, for people who are just taking beginner steps in this, I'm guessing you could just start with a lead ad rather than having the attention ad first.
A lot of people do, but as the digital landscape shifts, what you'll find is the cheapest, the best return on your investment is going to be generating interest. In fact, the reality is you run both together. You run a lead and you run an awareness campaign together simultaneously. And I would say if you're going to do that, you probably put 80% into the leads, you're generating leads, and 20% into the awareness. Awareness is bringing in a completely cold audience, and a lead is actually generating is like exactly that, getting leads in.
People giving you their email address basically, so you can contact them again and follow up, which brings us into the other two things you mentioned, which is the offer.
Sure. So now let's say you've so typically what you would have seen around the place is people say to you, hey, give us your name and email or whatever, and you can get this thing. And it's like an ethical bribe. So the ethical bribe could be the first chapter of your lovely book that you've got in the background there, right? Or it could be 5 steps to renting your property quicker, or 5 questions that you need to get to help you to get better quality tenants, right? So if I'm a landlord and I'm fed up with the nightmare tenants I've got, and I see an advert come up and saying, download this PDF or get our free video on 5 tips to getting better quality tenants, or 5 tips to how to evict a tenant quickly and easily, hassle-free, without having to go to court or whatever, right? So I could have that as my lead magnet, so they're opting in. And so now they're into my funnel, into my system, and now I'm going to follow up with, I'm going to make my offer to them. So I've given them the thing, the clickbait or the tripwire or the ethical bribe that they've opted in for, right? And now I'm going to contact them and make them an offer. And that contact them could be me picking up the phone. I could be sending them a text message if I've got their number, or I could be sending them an email, which is the most common form, sending them an email and saying, hey, I saw you opted in for XYZ. Here's my offer. And here's the next step. What it is you've got, how it will help them, how do they get it? Those are the 3 things to say when presenting an offer.
Yeah. And I think for landlords, having the telephone number lead can be very powerful. We find that when landlords call us, they're much more wanting to move forward much more quickly than when they email us, usually as a result of letters.
And this is why I like digital marketing, because it's inbound marketing. I'm dealing with people that have a problem. We know they've got a problem because they've opted in, but it's on my marketing materials. And now when I have a conversation with them, I'm not that a-hole that's just getting on their nerves, like almost like a PPI caller.
Yes, yeah. Okay, well, that's brilliant. So you've given us the 4 steps: attention, leads, the offers, and the follow-up.
So the follow-up is specifically, I would argue, an email campaign where you email them like crazy, and you email them more than you think you should. Because we live in a digital age now where I think the average person gets something like 150 emails a day. So if we email them, traditionally, before I got into this digital marketing space, I thought, if I send them more than 1 email in a week, I'm annoying them. I don't want to annoy them. But the problem is they're bombarded with information, so they forget that you've emailed them, or they've seen your email and they think, I was on the toilet, I was in the queue at Tesco's, I was killing time, I was doing this, and I got distracted. I'll come back to that later and I'll carry on. But because we live in almost like a microwave generation where everything's instant, right? They can easily be distracted. So we need to put that message in front of them again. So having a good follow-up sequence, whether that's multiple phone calls, multiple text messages, or multiple emails, keep following up with that person. And obviously, if you've got a CRM system or an email system like an autoresponder, you can have an unsubscribe link on there. So if they get fed up of hearing from you, they just unsubscribe. But for the rest of the people that stay on it, you keep staying in front of them. You hit them up multiple times.
That's great. And tell us a little bit about some of the success stories that you've had working with property investors.
Yeah, so I've had campaigns whereby you pound the street and you're looking for like deals. You're going with, like, for sourcing, because that's one of my other businesses, is sort of finding investment properties for myself and my clients. And I've gone out there, found really good properties, and seen there's margin in it, but I don't have the funds to go through with that. So now I need someone with money that is willing to do like a flip or a JV with me. So I've run campaigns like this, spent some money, had a whole load of investors come in and say, look, I've got £50,000 to invest in property, and I'm interested in moving forward with you. And you can start to build relationships with that, because obviously you have to follow AML process and stuff like that. So you can start building a relationship that way. And you can then take some of that money and then you can do future deals with, whether that's rent-to-rent deals or flipping deals or whatever. Other stuff I've done, especially during lockdown, I've had landlords from my awareness campaign, landlords call me and say, look, I've seen that you're doing rent-to-rent. I've got this property over here. Would you be interested? As I do my research, I find out, this is like a 3-bedroom house. It's not for me. However, it's in an area that would make a great service accommodation. So if he's already sold on rent-to-rent, How long is he willing to do it for, and how much money does he need? Negotiate that side of things, tie that up, and now I'm looking for someone who's just starting out, an investor. So I find someone who specializes in service accommodation or whatever, and then they come on, and I put the two of them together, and I charge a commission, and they go forward and do that. And those are super quick to put together as well. You can do that within a week. And so those are some of the things: finding landlords or motivated sellers, and then finding people with the money or people that want deals more than me, and then putting them together, and I charge a fee for that. And they're happy that they've got their property rented. They're happy that they found a property that works and gives them the money that they want, and I get paid.
No, that sounds great, Azu. So how can people find out more about this and potentially work with you? Oh, I've actually got a website here. So Azu actually is going to tell us a bit more about this in a moment, but he does have a masterclass and some free resources, and it's available at renttoRentsuccess.com/Azu. That's renttoRentsuccess.com/AZU. So tell us a bit about what people can find there, please, Azu.
So I am very much aware, especially being in the digital marketing space, that sometimes you go on these webinars and stuff, and people talk about themselves and their horror stories and how they were so much in debt, and how, suddenly now they're driving Ferraris and stuff like that. And that's just a load of nonsense. So I like to get straight to the point and give you enough actionable information that you can take it and run with it. So if you go to that website that you've just read out, they will have a step-by-step training that will show you how to actually get your own ad up and running. It gives you enough information to get your own ad up and running. And I am aware that there are some people that need more granular stuff, more macro stuff, exactly like paint by numbers, step by step, move your button here, move your mouse here, put this here, do that here. And for those people, I have an actual paid training course on there. So you can get all of that by going to the renttoRentsuccess.com/Azu, and that will take you to the free training. And again, the information in there, you can take it and run with it. It's enough in there for you to actually get up and running. And then if you want more help off of that, it's that same website that you go to that have details of how you can get some additional help.
Yeah, I was so impressed with the training that you came and did for our Rent to Rent Superstars group, which we do monthly trainings on all things pertaining to rent to rent. We have experts in each month to help us with that, and Azu was one of those. So thank you for that. And just to anybody watching on this thing, if you're interested in Facebook ads, I highly recommend the free training, and it is super valuable training, not like some of the ones that Azu mentioned there. So Azu, let's talk about anything else that you just want to say before we close today that you feel I haven't asked you about, or that you just want to add in for people.
Yeah, I find that a lot of people sit on the fence and just do so much research, and I can't even lie, because I was one of those people. So it's my brain is analytical, so I need more and more information, and then I realize actually, like, now I know more about this. I realize there's this thing over here. I need to learn about that. I think you should pick a strategy, and if it's going to be rent to rent, awesome, do that. I think it's going to take you about 18 months to get over the hump of really learning enough, making a few mistakes and doing all that stuff, and then seeing your hard work pay off, and you just start getting really paid for all your efforts. And I think that you need to market. So many people get involved in all these different strategies, and they forget you need a budget to tell people what it is you do. If you think that you're going to go out there and pound the street and speak to agents and do all that kind of stuff, it's going to take you so long. So in my humble opinion, you have, what is it? It's something like 45 million people in the UK have an active Facebook account. So we know where they are already, and we know that some of them are going to be landlords on there. You now need to get your message in front of those people. So if you have a budget of marketing at the moment, take a portion of that budget and put it into social media, specifically Facebook. Run some Facebook ads. If you're going to do that, set up a business page first for your business. That's free. Set up a business manager account by going to business.facebook.com. Again, that's free. That then allows you to do more granular targeting, as I show you on my free course, right? And then follow those steps and get your ads out there. And just to begin with, run some awareness campaigns so people even know that you exist and what it is that you do. From there, run some stuff to generate leads into your business. And then don't be afraid to pick up the phone, because those people are reaching out to you because they have a problem. And the reality is, I said this before, they have a problem. We know we can help them. Someone has to help them, and they're going to go to someone for help. That person may as well be you, because if it's not you, it's definitely going to be someone else. So
that is brilliant, and it's a great way to end this episode today. It's been phenomenal having you in. You've got such phenomenal value, and I know that we've only touched the surface of what you can offer, because we did have so much more time in our other session. But I just want to say thank you, Azus, for coming in and sharing your wisdom with us today. I want to say thank you to you for watching and for listening. As always, it's phenomenal to have you with us. And I just want to wish you an amazing rest of the week. And remember, believe bigger, be bolder, be a game changer. I'll see you next week. Bye for now.